Have you ever gone through a season that strengthened your trust in God? A moment so heavy, so uncertain, that you had nothing left to hold on to but faith. Sometimes it's pain, sometimes it's the waiting, sometimes it's the miracle you never saw coming. But somewhere in that storm, you realized that God was there all along. Mine was at 7-year-old. As a child, I loved cartoons, Tom and Jerry, Cinderella, and all those beautiful animations that made childhood feel magical. But at home, we only had a VCD player, and my parents couldn't afford a DVD. In fact, in our whole compound filled with about 20 tenants, it was only one house that had a DVD player. So every day, my little sibling, he was just 5 years old, and I would stand outside their window, peeking through the curtains just to watch cartoons. Sometimes we were lucky the neighbor's child would invite us in. Other times he would quietly close the curtains, and just like that would be left behind. So every day we begged just for a little space by the window. If we could peek through, even with one eye, then that was enough. And this went on for a while. You see, my parents were devoted Christians, so every time we went to church, I had just one prayer point. God, please give me a DVD. Please, God, give me a DVD. But deep down, I didn't have hope. How was it going to happen? We were barely feeding well. My dad was a good man. He just didn't have a job at the time. My mom hawked bananas around the neighborhood, doing everything she could to keep us going. So to me, as a child, a DVD wasn't just a device. It was a big dream, an impossible dream. And still, I prayed. Until one day, I came back from school and everything was different. My dad, who usually watched Nollywood movies, was now watching what we called American film. Any movie with white people was American film to us. I froze. Then I looked closely at the shelf, and there it was. Not the usual VCD player. Sitting proudly on top of it was a DVD player. Can you imagine that? I ran to it, placed my tiny hands on the machine, touched it over and over just to be sure I wasn't dreaming. Then I turned to my dad and asked, "Daddy, do we have a DVD now?" He smiled softly and said, "Yes, your mother bought it." I didn't even think. I just ran and hugged him tightly. I tried to hide it, but I heard him cry. I saw the tears before he turned his face away. That was the day my faith changed. That was the day my trust in God tightened. And you know how petty kids can be, right? I ran straight to the neighbor's house and knocked boldly. The boy opened the door just a little. Only his head was showing, and said, "Go to the window. My mom said you shouldn't come inside." I looked him straight in the eyes and said, "I didn't come to watch your American film. I came to borrow something." He laughed and said, "But you only have VCD." I didn't wait for him to finish. I just interrupted him while doing the little mocking dance kids do to pepper other kids. I said, "My mommy bought the DVD for us. My mommy bought the DVD for us." You should have seen the shock on his face. You see, I don't care what people say about God. I don't care if people say there's no God. I don't care what anyone thinks. Maybe you're talking about the God they know. Maybe it's the God they know that doesn't exist or answer prayers. But as for me, in my household, we will serve the God of my DVD. The God who had a 7-year-old girl praying for something that seemed impossible. The God who let her give my father a job, a wonderful one at that. The God who elevated my mother from hacking bananas on the streets to owning her own fabric shop. The God who saw 2 little children peeking through a neighbor's window just to watch cartoons. That God showed up. So they can say whatever they want. They can debate, argue, they can analyze. But my God, the God of my DVD, He keeps coming through for me. And He will forever be my God.